Today we are returning to our continuing discussions with Anthony Capps, third grade teacher at Gulf Shores Elementary, former lab professional in EDM 310, a good friend of EDM 310, and a really good friend of mine as well. And he is going to uh, be on the hot spot again as I throw a few questions at him. Today, I would like to ask him about iCurio. Baldwin County uses iCurio. I've now included a bit of it into EDM 310. What is iCurio as from your viewpoint, and how do you use it, Anthony?
Well, iCurio is an online tool that can serve a few different purposes. Um, what it is it's one aspect of iCurio is it allows students to safely search websites that have been pulled, websites and images and videos and all kinds of online media that have been pulled and filtered for educational uses. So
So it's a curated sort of search engine that not only searches text but also audio and video around subjects that would fit in with the Alabama College and Career Ready standards or other state standards as well. Is that right? Is that a pretty good summary of that?
absolutely. And then outside, that's the main feature. That's how I would describe it if I was only allowed to describe
Right.
one aspect of it. But there are two other features that I think are really useful for my students, and one of them
So
is
they
to
can go
store.
on and use it themselves with the setup.
Absolutely, they
Okay.
have their own logins, right? So they log in to use it, and then they use it like a search engine. Well, that leads to another component that this has is it's got a storage capacity for it for students. So not only does it allow teachers to store different content that they find valuable, but it also allows students to store content that they find valuable. What that means is that students and adults have a really hard time staying organized. And whenever you talk about virtual organization, it's even more difficult. And I think it's more difficult for adults because we didn't grow up in a virtual organized world. So we've had to learn how to adapt our organization methods to folders and to drives online and to the cloud, etc. Well, iCurio allows students to start getting practice organizing themselves online because they have their own folders that they can add things to, and they're in charge of creating folders for certain topics, and they can sort different internet websites, video, audio, into those folders and delete it as appropriate. So I think that's a really important way to teach virtual organization, and iCurio does that for the kids.
I was
So
a scrap paper note taker, and then I could never find my notes. And I'm getting a little bit better, but that sounds like I wasn't aware of that feature of iCurio. So that sounds like a really. I use Delicious for a lot of the same reasons. So I gather from what you said that it's sort of like that, or it works in the same way, or it produces the same result.
right, and it has kid-friendly buttons and things
Right.
like that. So it's not a lot of. It doesn't allow you to do it in a very precise and specific way, I guess. But it's great for student use. You know, like you don't it doesn't have hashtags and things like that, but it allows them to create a folder, drop items into that folder, create another folder, drop items into that
So
folder.
then they can do their research and collect their material and come back to it in order to finish the project, and not have seen something that they wish they could use but no longer remember where they got it.
And what's important about that is because they're inside the curated search engine, so you don't want them going outside of the curated search engine unless you've already pulled
Right.
websites for them because there's so many things that are inappropriate for them out there. But they're inside that, and whenever and in a classroom you have anywhere from 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes to do something, but when that bell rings or whenever it's time to go to lunch or time to go to PE, you
Uh,
have to stop what you're doing and go. So it's really nice for students to be able to drop that
I hadn't
in.
thought about that. That would be a real advantage. That it's safe, even if you got to
Right,
get out, fire bell or lunchtime or recess or whatever.
right,
Okay.
exactly, so they can get right back to where they were easily. And it also has a feature that's called timelines, which we haven't used much. I hope to use that this year. and learn more about it this year. But the feature we did use a lot this year was the historical figures feature. So you can search by criteria. So if you know that you need to do a project on, if it's a civil rights project, then you might search 1960s African American male. Or if you are doing a project about something that's happening in Thailand, you can search scientists Thailand. So I heard that Yahoo used to be set up like that.
I don't
Um,
know.
Way a long time ago, like it was more of a directory. Well, the iCurio has a directory feature with historical figures, and I think that's a really great thing for students because they don't have the background knowledge to know that Sally Ride was the first astronaut, or Neil Armstrong was the first one on the moon. They can just say, well, I need to know about this topic. I need it to be a boy because I want to research boys instead of girls, and I want it to be a minority, ethnicity or race or whatever. So they can search by that criteria and find out who meets their criteria that the teacher's given them or that they've created themselves.
What
And
grade levels would this be useful for, iCurio? All the way through high school?
yeah,
All?
it's definitely got a lot of high school information. But I think that any grade level, that any teacher that feels comfortable letting their students search the web, I think iCurio is the best way to go.
Because it's a curated version and you can only get the stuff that somebody responsible has selected. And
Right.
I gather one of the real strengths is that it doesn't restrict itself to just text, but really has a great number of videos that people can use or add to their projects, or still pictures or graphs or graphics or things of that sort. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay. This has been
And then the
a.
last important feature is that it's
Oh.
got read only, like it's got a read aloud feature to it. So the students, it's great for accessibility. So if you have a
Oh.
deaf student, ELL student, or a blind student, if the student has a learning disability, they can read whatever website. I mean, it has a feature that will read the text on the website to them.
Oh, I
So
didn't know that either. Well, that's great. That sounds like it does, would be very useful in a lot of interesting or difficult circumstances.
yes, and all the kids want to use it the first few times, and then they realize that they can read faster, so they usually don't use it after that.
Well, that's how you learn. You experiment and try it out. That's one of the things we try to encourage. Okay, this has been a short session today with Anthony Capps about iCurio. And I hope that you will continue to learn about it, and we hope that we'll be able to have it available for your use starting in the fall semester. Thanks, Anthony.
Yes, sir.